Alright guys, this time we are looking at the Sennheiser HD560S. All aboard the hype train, because yeah, these things have been really hyped throughout the past month that, people have actually known about these. So I want to start off by apologizing for the construction crew outside. They have been at it for days, and I've been trying to record this video for days because, well, this is important, and this is the only area I can record in, but, well, if I have to deal with a construction crew, you do too. Now before we begin, I'd really appreciate it if you go down below, drop me a like, ring the notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. It's actually picking up quite a bit of speed, and I'm finally starting to, take off with the channel. So I'd really appreciate it if you go ahead and help me do that. Spread the word of my channel for anybody that needs help with audio. That's literally what I'm here for, so I appreciate your help and thank you very much. So let's get started. Now I wasn't going to pick a pair of these up, but when DMS got his hands on these and started saying, wow, these are amazing, and then if you like the HD600 line, you're gonna love these. If you're looking for neutral at an affordable price point, look no further. Here is your bread and butter. I had to pick one up for myself because I had to see what all the buzz was about, what was so good about these that made DMS want to recommend such an affordable pair of headphones out of the blue. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is what this video is all about. Was the hype train worth it, or was it just hype? Let's find out. So let's start off with the content here. As far as the contents are concerned, it's not a lot. You get the headphones themselves, you get a ridiculously long 10-foot 2.5 millimeter tip ring sleeve twist lock mechanism to 1/4 inch tip ring sleeve cable, a 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeter tip ring sleeve adapter, and of course you get the box itself. Now this is not a display box, it comes packaged in cardboard, which is, it's a good thing for a headphone at this price point. You really shouldn't be expecting some gorgeous display of any kind to be received with this type of headphone. And that's actually really good. They keep the price point down. That means you can enjoy great audio at a much more affordable price, or they can pack in much more at the price point they were looking to price these at. Now let's talk about the build quality here. These are mostly just plastic, if we're being honest. The type of plastic used feels appropriate for a headphone of this price point, but it is definitely on the flimsy side of things. Perhaps this particular plastic was chosen to reduce cost and weight. I can definitely see that being a thing. The only metal on these headphones is on the grills themselves. Now, the part of the headband that touches your head and the pads themselves are pretty much made out of velour. In the hand, this velour material really doesn't feel all that special or extravagant. On your head, however, they don't feel uncomfortable or itchy in any way. Now, the inside of the cup still features Sennheiser's unique indentation called EAR technology. This is primarily meant to increase Soundstage. They do not appear to be marketing that feature with these, but they're still there. It's just part of the HD5XX line. The HD500 line. Now, the cable itself is made out of a thick-ish plastic. I'd place this right in the middle. It's not a bad cable, but it's not mind-blowing either. I can definitely use this and not feel like I should rush to Amazon to find a replacement as soon as possible. It does hold its shape kinda well, not entirely, especially after, days, maybe weeks, maybe months of usage. I'm pretty sure it'll get better, but for now, it does keep its shape relatively well, which is not a good thing. Now let's go ahead and jump into the comfort department. These do have a somewhat powerful clamp right out of the box. Initially, I did try the stretching method people suggest on the HD600 line to loosen the vise a bit. However, I could not continue to do so because it felt like the plastic could break. Although they did still loosen up quite a bit at the end of that. Try it at your own risk. If you hear a little bit of creaking, a little bit of cracking, I suggest you stop right away. Now, I can wear these for hours on end, but I do have to perform micro adjustments every now and then, and they aren't exactly the most comfortable headphone either. Something to note here, these do not provide a complete seal around the head. Most of the pressure lies on the upper half of the cups, forming a perfect seal. However, the lower rear sides of the cups do not manage to completely seal off my ear. There is a gap present on each side. Now, as far as amping these, they're relatively simple, relatively easy to drive. They're not terrible. They're rated at an impedance of 120 ohms with a sensitivity of 110 decibels. I ran these off of a THX AAA 789 on gain level 2 at around 11 a.m. And I also ran these off of a shit hell on low gain at 10:30 a.m. So just to give you a quick point of reference, these really don't need a whole lot of power to be driven, and they are pretty sensitive, so you don't exactly need a super powerful amplifier. You don't exactly need some, tube amp meant to drive high impedance headphones. A simple like a FiO budget DAC or even a shit full of 3 will do you just fine, and you shouldn't have any issues driving these. And now, I don't like saying you can use motherboard audio because motherboard audio is dirty, distorted, and nasty, but I get it. Though I do understand people can be on a budget and $200 is definitely a stretch for them. I do recommend you get a DAC at some point that is at least over $50 worth of value. It is going to give you a massive jump in quality and power from what you are currently running off of your motherboard. Even if your motherboard is rated for, like high quality sounds or HD audio for gaming, trust me, that's just marketing. It's not real. It's not real. None of this is real. I don't even exist. And now the section you've all been waiting for, the sound quality. So let's start off with the bass here. So in general, the bass response is actually very linear with practically no bloom or emphasis in any region. It's almost like comparing a documentary to a series based on real life, right? Like the series facts are mostly accurate and it adds a dash of pizzazz and dramatizes events in order to wow the audience, right? That's like most other headphones. Meant to entertain, meant to make them groove. These, on the other hand, are like a documentary. They just give you the information hard and raw. Hey, if that's how you like it, I don't judge. Sub-bass isn't overblown and massive, but it is well extended and reaches surprisingly deep for a headphone at this point. Like, for a headphone at this price point. It doesn't go boom, but it does offer a nice slap and slam to instruments, particularly things like drums, like the beat in an electronic track, that kind of thing. Bass guitars have pretty good texture and great timbre. They do actually sound very natural. So I'll use an example here. Witch Image by Ghost. I use this track to test for bloom in the mid to upper bass region. In this track, the bass guitar should be a tad more forward than neutral since their bass guitar is more forward and warmer than the average rock track. Indeed, the bass guitar only had a slight amount of bloom, which is to be expected. Now, credit goes out to DMS for saying this first, but I definitely agree that the bass response really does sound flat, like a pair of professional studio monitors. Like, it reminds me of my JBL LSR30Xs, although the JBLs do have a slightly forward mid-bass response, like a slight little hump to them, but they still sound very professional, very clean, and I can't complain. Now we jump into the mids. Overall, the vocals are mostly neutral, but can take a bit of a step back. They're pretty much at the same level or distance than the instruments, although separation is definitely not an issue with these. I'll use an example. Dream On, the Postmodern Jukebox cover, original track by Aerosmith, of course. Ideally, Morgan James should sound like she's a bit too forward, but very detailed. But she actually sounds a bit farther than usual. I have a good theory as to what may be causing the issue, but more on that later. It's tough to describe it, but it doesn't sound like the mids are recessed. They don't sound recessed. They just, more like they could just be a bit distant. Almost as if you were listening to two headphones at the same time. So I know it's kind of tough to imagine, but let's assume the laws of physics don't exist and you have headphone A and headphone B. Now, you've got both of them on in the exact same space at the same time, and headphone A is playing the treble, the bass, soundstage, everything else. Headphone B is playing the mids, and those mids still sound great, still sound excellent, still sound detailed, but they're just like they sound like they're coming from a different headphone, like a different driver. They don't sound like it's the same headphone doing the same service, you know what I'm saying? Now, as far as the treble response is concerned on these, once again, no general complaints in this department either. As a whole, the treble response sounds very linear. However, it also sounds like the entire response took a half step forward. It has some very slight excitement going on. It isn't in any particular area either. It's just, generally speaking, the treble is like, sure, you've got a very well-controlled treble, but if this is neutral, treble's probably like right here. Just slightly elevated, slightly forward. Not forward in positioning, but in terms of the volume of the treble. That said, there don't really appear to be any real detriments to the treble. The sibilant regions also lie a bit forward, but not to the point where they are considered sibilant, rather just un poquito picoso, just a little less spicy, Upper percussive instruments do possess a smidge of extra authority here as well. They also do possess a good amount of air up top, but it does feel a tad rolled off. Now, a quick example, Cowboys from Hell by Pantera, and this is from their Best of the Hits remastered album from, I want to say 2003, though I can't be entirely certain. Pantera always did produce their music with a bit too much energy up top, but this version is the newest and cleanest, whose treble was not amped up even further. It should sound more forward than average without the upper percussion sounding far too forward, nor the sibilant region sounding sibilant. Well, the HD560S pull it off with just a tad more energy than usual. Another example by another Pantera track, The Art of Shredding. This one is specifically from Cowboys from Hell Deluxe version from 1990, I believe. This version of the album sounds far more amped in the treble department. Therefore, this track should sound even more energetic in the treble without sounding sibilant. The headphones push that treble as far as it goes before getting sibilant at all. Like I could probably see, like, on days where your ears are very, very, very sensitive to treble, they might just cross that border of sibilance in this particular track, but it's still not as deafening as other headphones that have probably hyped treble a bit. Now, as far as Soundstage and imaging is concerned, from a general perspective, these sound neither wide nor narrow. They hit the sweet spot between sounding spacious and roomy, while sounding like there is a large amount of room left over. As you begin analyzing it, however, the soundstage starts to sound a bit like a bubble, like a tall yet oval-shaped sound, much like the headphones themselves, I suppose. This, I suspect, must be largely due to the EAR technology. With the entire HD5XX line, Sennheiser utilized this method to expand the soundstage in their headphones and make them sound larger than they would have otherwise, along with other improvements in the sound. Although it is an impressive feat, it does make the soundstage feel a bit I'm telling you, these construction people, my God. Like I said, I have to endure that. I've been enduring it for the past few days. You have to endure it too. Anyways, although it is an impressive feat, it does make the soundstage feel a little unnatural. Like, it's nothing huge, it's just a minor nitpick, but it is something I did notice from the HD500 line, particularly with the HD598 closed that I tried a couple of years back. I didn't review the headphone, I just bought it, tried it, and then I said it's not for me, so I went ahead and returned it. Now, imaging is decent on these, however, I'm legitimately getting really annoyed right now. Okay, so imaging is decent with these. However, you do start to notice the downsides of picking a more budget-friendly headphone like this one. I'll give you an example. Devilman no Uta from Devilman Crybaby. Yes, I'm a weeb, get used to it. I use this track primarily for tracking particular elements in this song. At the minute 39, you are able to track the drums very easily when they go from left to right. That's points in its favor, but after that, tracking the exact location of each clap is not as simple. Generally, yes, I can hear that it is in front of me doing that, but that's as far as it goes. I should be able to hear a minute difference in location with every clap. Like, it's in the same area, which is like right in front of you, maybe a little close to the right, but it's always a little high up, a little down low, a little left and right. Minute differences that I've only been able to hear with endgame Summit Fi headphones, particularly like the HD800 or HD800S. Conclusion time. I would love to hear what a headphone in the HD5XX line without the EAR technology indentation would sound like. I wonder if it really does mess with its sound too much, or if it really is just the headphone itself. The Sennheiser HD560S truly are an example of linear sound. They're easily the most linear headphone I've ever heard, period. However, I will say this much. Since I appreciate neutral headphones above all else, I do love the sound of these, I do. However, after listening to these for a good while, switching back to another headphone is quite the shock. Even something like the HD600 sound energetic by comparison. You do get used to neutrality and can definitely enjoy it, but bringing back the hype, it feels quite shocking. I really do think DMS hit the nail with this comment. They really do sound like something you would hear out of a pair of professional monitors from a professional studio. There are a few caveats to having this headphone. If you think these are at the level of the HD600 line, you're sorely mistaken. Their resolution capabilities get close, but they don't really compete either. Now another gripe, this is kind of a personal gripe, but I know people have issues with this as well. Having a one-sided cable means you cannot run these balanced, which limits... Everybody in the world hates me and wants to see me dead. I don't even know why we have a home phone anymore. Who calls you other than... Okay, look, I digress as best as I can. Having a one-sided cable means you cannot run these balanced, which does limit your potential for sound customization. Also, it may feel uncomfortable for some, including myself. It's just... It goes down your chest, and it kind of like it rubs against your chest in a weird kind of way. Or it can go across, which is what I do, but it just kind of feels like you're wearing a seatbelt, especially if you move a particular way. It's really not that comfortable, and I'm not a fan of one-sided headphones, specifically for that reason. The HD5XX line is known to last quite a while. It is a Sennheiser, after all, but its all-plastic build does leave me wondering. I mean, listen to this. I hope you tried your best to listen to the plastic and not the construction crew. Now, are these my favorite headphone? No, they're not my favorite headphone. Have they secured a spot in my collection? Most likely, since I really do like them, I'm not gonna lie. At its current price point of $200, it competes with the 6XX and the 58X Jubilee, just from Sennheiser alone. If what you seek is close to neutrality at a low price point, the HD560S are it. However, otherwise, I'd recommend going with the 6XX for a higher resolution, yet warm/relaxed sound signature. Now, if you recall, I don't really like the 6XX stock, but you can either use EQ to transform the sound signature in a particular way, like bump up the treble, bring up the bass extension, lower that mid-bass hump, or you can use them XLR. It really does improve the sound signature of those headphones. Believe me, it does. Or you can go with a used HD600 for a brighter and cleaner sound and a step up in build quality. These are fantastic. I do love them. I do recommend them for particular listeners, but I wouldn't say they are for everybody. They do have their caveats to them, and they are something to certainly consider. Anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your questions down below. Go ahead and check out my Patreon. You do get a couple of good benefits from there, such as getting to see the video ahead of time by 1 or 2 days. You can chat with me on Patreon or on Discord, and many other benefits. Go ahead and check it out. I hope this video helped your purchasing decision, and I'll see you in the next one.